right now, well, for the last 5 years, when we watched tyranny descend on our country, this time in the guise of medical necessity and public health, it was Children's Health Defense and their friends who consistently fought, were the tip of the spear, as they say, but didn't just fight rhetorically, didn't just fight gesturally, but actually did what you're seeing here. You know, they bring their people to Albany, they go to state capitals, they register people, they talk to representatives, they tell us what bills to support. This is critical, and they're doing it at the state level, as you heard from Mary Holland. This is the only way, in a time like this, where battles rage on at the federal level. Just because we have MAGA and MAHA in power doesn't mean the fight is over. It means it's just begun. But CHD always knows how to fight intelligently, legally, change the law, make our structures, there's nothing wrong with them, right? Make them work. It's when the citizens don't force them to work that we fall into tyranny. So that's why I'm here for CHT. Let me just say why I'm here for Bravest and teachers and all the workers of New York, my state, my city, who were so abusively treated and are to this day. I was a single mom for 12, I always cry when I talk about this. I was a single mom. I was a single mom! For 12 years in New York City. There is nothing more vulnerable and scary than being a single mother of 2 small children. Anywhere, right? And you know this. When I would go to sleep, I would sleep, you know, finally, after those long days of being a good single parent, right? I wasn't slacking, those are the hardest days. But I would be able to go to sleep at night because the firefighters were right across the street, keeping us safe. And because I knew that if I heard an intruder, or if there was some, attack or threat to my children, the police, Precinct 6 were down the block on 10th Street. And they were there and they would show up. And when I set fire to cookies in my oven, which I confess I did more than once, the firefighters came to save us. But that's not even the point. It's not just the firefighters across the street. It's not just the cops. It's the doormen. It's the elevator operators. It's the first responders who show up with ambulance if God forbid one of my children gets injured or hurt. The whole city runs on you guys! The whole city! And when it became clear in 2020, 2021 that you all were being forced, and those of you maybe watching in digital land, were being forced to take an experimental injection, the trials weren't even going to end for another 2 years, into your bodies as a condition of keeping your job, and if you didn't do that, you were out with no way to pay your mortgage and feed your kids. I was horrified. And I thought, my right-arm friends in New York City, the left wing that I come from, they're not going to stand for this. They're for the workers. And so I came at, I think, CHD's or Teachers for Choice request to a rally, right off the park in the center of Manhattan. And I looked at a sea of very worried firefighters, police, first responders, sanitation workers, desperately worried. These brave, brave people. And I looked around for my cohort. Where were the liberal journalists? Where were the feminists? Where were the activists for social justice and racial equality? This was disproportionately hurting brown and black and white working class people, right? They weren't there! What the heck? Right? It was like the scales fell from my eyes. So I will move heaven and earth to get you guys back in your jobs, past pay, I'm sorry, because it is sheer exploitation and class oppression, racial oppression, injustice to rely on the bodies and courage of these first responders, these firefighters, these cops, these EMTs, these sanitation workers, and then throw them away when they don't comply with medical tyranny that's illegal and unconstitutional to start out with. So I just want to honor all of you and give yourselves a giant round of applause. The other thing I want to say, and I want someone to tell me, show up fingers for how much time I have left, is 3, okay? Is look at this moment, look at who you are, all right? We're standing here in this weird basement underneath all these people who are bought and sold by our adversaries, you know, with some exceptions, right? And we're here saying such basic common sense things. We're not saying redistribute wealth. You know, we're not saying, I don't know, what extreme thing, you know, let's go on an all-solar grid and ban fossil fuels. We're literally saying, leave children alone with us. Right? We're saying, let workers come back to work, compensate for an improper firing, right? We're saying, and I look at all of you, I don't know what your politics are. Maybe you're Democrats, maybe you're Independents, maybe you're Republicans, maybe you're Green. It doesn't matter, right? And I look at all of you, and yes, MAGA and MAHA are characterized as, you know, white nationalist extremists. But this is a very diverse group of people, all ages, all backgrounds, all religions, all belief systems. I don't know. I don't care. Why do I not know or care? Because you are my brothers and sisters in common human decency. Let's leave the kids alone. Let them go to school. Let's take our workers back. I can't believe we have to have these conversations 5 years later, but you're here standing for humanity, humane values. So God bless you, but I also want to say, while I can, look at the power of this movement, right? We're in the basement, the food's not good, you know. But this group of people and our friends who didn't give up got a new administration into power and a new alliance. I'm not even saying that as a partisan thing. I'm saying it's an anti-tyranny thing, right? Again, the fight's not over. Everyone lapses into tyranny if you don't keep holding their feet to the fire. That's politics. But this alliance, MAGA and MAHA, is the closest thing to a true movement of the people I've seen in my lifetime. And this alliance numerically has the power to redraw the Republican Party, the Democrats, and independents into, you know, into a majority. Walkaways, Republicans and MAHA and MAGA are going to win election after election after election if we keep fighting and if we keep forcing our representatives above us and on Capitol Hill to listen to the policies that we want. So I would add to Bobby Ann Cox's work, please be sure to pass the paper ballots bill that we drafted, because the voting system in New York State is still super corrupt. I couldn't tell when I voted if my vote was counted, so that has to change. And then I need to close, right? And I want to say one final thing about one of these bills, but about the whole theme of who raises your kids. I'm a survivor of a sexual assault in childhood, unfortunately. Thank you. And, pardon me, I'm very aware from a child's memory of what safety feels like and doesn't feel like. I was drilling down into this, you know, children being vaccinated for STDs at school bill, right? And the whole scenario started to make my heart race the way it does when I'm, you know, in a groomery context. Because think about it, your child is, what do they say? You know, we're preparing, this will keep you safe when you have sexual intercourse, not after marriage or when you're an adult. It's adults saying you're going to get injected for something that prepares you for sexual intercourse, and then what happens? The kids are taken out of the classroom? What happens? They go to a nurse's office? What happens? Who's there? Who are these adults? Right? All kinds of NGOs are putting counselors in schools. Then they get injected. Who's checking the contents? Who's reading the label? Right? It could be anything. And you know, do they get to say no? Right? Do they feel guilty if they don't tell their parents? But mostly as a survivor, I want to say that this scenario, to me, isn't even about what they're injecting into their bodies. It's about breaking them down as autonomous people who can fight back or choose, or defend themselves against a threat. It's psychological conditioning. It's grooming. It's a form of psychological torture. We're going to break the bond between you and your parents. We're going to take your body. We're going to traffic it. We're going to put something inside you that you may not consent to. Does any victim or survivor of sexual assault resonate to that sentence? Something's going in you against your will. And we're a bunch of adults with a giant, authority institution behind us, and it's going to happen to you whether you like it or not. Well, that's how you make serfs, and that's how you make mentally enslaved adults. So this is just an initiation, I feel. It is an initiation. So that's what I want to say to you. I also want to say we're all tired. We all woke up early. We're now no doubt cranky and angry, some of us. But we're here with having shown we can change the world together in our humanity, in our bonds as brothers and sisters across every kind of division. And I want to honor your power, CHD, Teachers for Choice, Bravest for Choice, Finest for Choice, all the workers, Moms for Liberty, and all the Americans out there who